All righty, welcome back. It's the Jeremy Mills podcast, coming to you on location with Eastern Washington University's own, Worldwide Sports Management's own, and most importantly, the championship coach of the CrawsOver, Mr. Alvin Snow. How you doing, man?
I'm good. I like that introduction.
Yeah. And I should have mentioned Hall of Famer too.
That works.
I was going to say, when you introduce somebody, I'm always hyping people up, maybe a little bit too much,
right.
But I always say legend. But when you say Hall of Famer, can't take that away.
And
it's true.
Right.
Can't take that away.
Right.
So I appreciate you doing this. We kind of got to know each other a little bit, just being around each other at the CrawsOver.
Sure.
It's funny, I don't think ever actually spoke, but I was just always impressed by your demeanor, coaching in the CrawsOver. It was really impressive to see, a team come out and play the way you guys did in a Pro-Am, a summer league.
Right.
Learning a little bit more about, how you were involved with those guys. It started to make sense,
Right.
You're a lot of their agent, maybe all of them.
Most of the guys.
Most
sure.
of the guys. Yeah. So just seeing, your demeanor week to week and how serious you took it, it was for real. So
for me, I'm really particular about playing the game the right way. I think that right now there's a ton of guys who are not playing the game the right way, and I made it a point to, whenever we faced a team that would play good basketball and move the ball, share the ball, and not just play a bunch of one-on-one, I will make sure the game was a competitive game. But any team that played a bad brand of basketball, selfishly, one-on-one, just trying to put themselves on ball as life or any of that stuff, I want to make sure we beat them pretty good.
And you sent that message.
Right.
Because I was up with some of the guys that run the CrawsOver, and it was like, man, Alvin Snow's doing this again. He's running these teams off the court. Like, what are we going to do? We got to tell him to chill out a little bit. But you could tell that, you're taking it serious, and just because they aren't doesn't mean you shouldn't.
No, I want there to be I want to impact the culture in our area. I want guys to take this game more seriously. It's done everything for me, and it continues to do everything for me. So for me, it is serious. It is something that I've been to 30 countries with this game. I've learned from some of the greatest coaches all over the world. And so for me, it's an opportunity to show some of the things I've learned and give back to people who haven't had the experiences I've had. So it's really, I look at it not like a game and not like just for fun or kicks no, it's a real thing, and I take it seriously, yeah.
And was that passion always there, even when you were a young kid being introduced to the game? Was that passion maybe there and it's grown as it's done more for you? Or?
Sure. It's always been there. It's always been, I've not said this to many people, only people that I share a really intimate relationship with. So it'd be really funny for me to actually say this out loud publicly, right? But I grew up without my dad. So basketball, in a weird way, kind of became my father. It sounds really bizarre probably to you or to whoever out there, but it's taught me so much that I have to respect it, and I have to treat it with great care, the way you would treat a father that you care about and love, right? And so that's why you see me being as serious as I am. Not that I'm some crazy madman or none of that, man. I love this game.
Right.
It's been great to me, and I want to be great to it, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, and you can tell. And I think some people might have taken it like, man, this guy's a crazy madman. Look at the Kobe scowl he's got on his face week to week at the CrawsOver. Right. But I always kind of took that, and as I was driving here with my wife, that's what I was kind of explaining was there's intense passion there, but I know probably the people that you are a part of their lives, the people that you're an agent to, it's intense passion. Yep. Sometimes that's probably being hard on them, but you're probably the guy that's also there for them.
Absolutely.
Like more than anyone else. And
every
they know
step
that.
of the way. So for me, the reason that you're able to see me be hard on them or tough on them, whatever you want to call it, is because I love on them first. I actually I'm not just an agent for them. I spend every single day in the gym all summer with them. Pouring into them, giving them everything I have, everything I know. Sometimes some of these guys don't live here. They're not from here. they come and stay with me. They come and live in my house. I drive them around. I feed them. I do everything I can for them to make sure that they can have the best opportunity possible to be successful. So it is passion for me, right?
Yeah. And it's your life. And
absolutely.
Yeah. It's impressive. And for people who aren't, as into the background of what the agent-player relationship is, they might not know that that's not typical.
No. That's incredibly uncommon.
And that's something that Robert Upshaw talked about to me was, ask him about how does he balance that, being their agent, their business side, but also being a person and a player developer.
Right. It's not easy.
Yeah.
I wear many hats, and it's a challenge. And sometimes these relationships, they're impacted by all the many ways that I'm in these guys' lives, and not always. It doesn't always feel the best because I'm a big brother. I'm a uncle. I'm a agent. I'm a trainer. I'm your coach. I'm all these different things, and sometimes it doesn't feel good to hear what I have to say. But what these guys know is that I'm always going to tell them the truth, and it's always rooted and founded in like this healthy relationship with helping them win, right? I'm trying to create great culture around winning, and I tell guys all the time, one of the greatest blessings I've had in my playing career is at the high school level, at the college level, and at the pro level. I've been every guy. I've been just a regular team guy, just a role player, and then I've been the guy, and at every level. So I have a really unique perspective because I've been able to, I've had to manage all those different spots and roles, right? So I'm able to share, and I'm able to relate to a lot of different guys in a lot of different ways. And I try to just give that to all these guys. Yeah.
And that's just on the court experience you have. That's not even taking into account playing in all these different countries, being able to give that real life advice of what it's going to be like when you go play overseas. Speaking of playing overseas, what were your thoughts kind of going into it with the idea of playing overseas versus what you think of it now?
Initially, you just hear so much. You watch CNN or you watch whatever you watch, Fox News. I don't know what you watch, but whatever it is, you hear so many stories and you're always nervous, right? My first offer was to go to Israel. I remember my mom being really nervous. She actually was the person who made me turn it down.
Wow.
I went to play in Cyprus instead for much less money. But we played in this international competition called the FIBA Cup. And I did really well. And because I did well, I got interest from a team in Israel that I played against, and I ended up leaving the team in Cyprus and going to that team in Israel. And when I got there, I'm like, this place is amazing. It's not, Mom, I'm in Galilee, like from the Bible. You know what I mean? This is not what you read about or saw on the news. This is amazing.
Wow.
Right. And so that kind of opened me up. And as my career went on, I went to all these different amazing places. Like I said before, I've been to literally 30 plus countries. And it's, for me, it's one thing to go and just kind of like take a vacation and maybe ride a tour bus, like a tourist tour bus, right? But for me, it's a totally different thing. When you get a chance to sit in these homes, talk to these people, like they accept you as family when you're on their team. So they tell you all their stories. They tell you why they were in war. They tell you why this food is a customary dish, or it's just a wealth of culture and knowledge that you start to get. And you start to realize how important this stuff is, and not just this basketball stuff, right? So it really kind of grounded me and then rounded me, right?
Do you think a lot of guys take what you took from it, or reflect on that as much as you do? Do you think that's a common thing?
I do not think that's a common thing. I think in Europe they like to use the term like typical American. And when they say typical American, it's the guy who comes over, doesn't really talk to the guy to his domestic teammates. Doesn't really, hang out with them, spend time with them, do any of that stuff. He just comes, wants to shoot all the balls in the game, and wants to collect his check and get out of there. Right? That's their idea of what the typical American is, and that comes from a place of them experiencing it that way, right? When I did everything in my power not to be like that, and I think that's why me as a 6'2", flat-footed, football-shaped guy got 10 years out of this thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
That's awesome. What is like the one piece of advice you give to players that are going to be experiencing going and playing overseas for the first time?
Oh, there's a ton of things I could say, but one of the things I say is, just like I just said, spend time with your teammates, develop those relationships, because you don't know what you're going to be doing later. For me, because I did spend time, let me back up. I'll give you a story. When I was in Israel, this is early in my career. This is like my second year out of school, my first full year in Europe. I had a teammate. He was the captain of the team. His name was Moshe Mizrahi. I'll never forget. And now I'm young. I'm 24 at the time. My big, huge goals, right, for myself and my career. And one thing about me as a player, I prided myself on being tough, right? Playing really hard and just being really tough, doing all the things all the tough things, right? And this guy really, I had an issue with guys who weren't that way, and he wasn't that way. And one day it was his birthday, and he was having a big birthday party that everybody was supposed to go to. And me being the young, typical American at the time, right? I said, man, I'm not going to his birthday. That dude is soft. I'm not like, this is how I thought, right? And so I didn't go to his birthday party. Now, that meant everything to him. He was not only the captain of my team, but he was also the captain of the Israeli national team. I played well that year, really well. I never got another job in Israel.
Wow.
And I realized the impact that single decision made. Wow. I could have decided, put your little crap to the side, and it's a teammate. It's a good dude. Forget what your feelings are around it and what he does on the floor. It's a good dude. Go to his birthday party. Support your teammate. Right. So build those relationships. Right. That's kind of the advice I would give these guys. Which is for you to be able to give that advice as somebody who, like you said, somebody could describe as hard if you're describing him as soft, and being able to, change your thinking and be like, all right, maybe what am I doing? So I think that's awesome to be able to be an example for that. Dealing with players today, you hear a lot about depression, and something when I was at the CrawsOver, I didn't think anyone was depressed, but I was around a lot of people who aren't in the NBA but are still, pursuing professional basketball. Sure. Do you have how do you approach that with your players? It's a really tricky thing. Everybody's different. But you certainly have to find a way to, have to find a healthy way to communicate and manage expectations, right? It's a really tricky thing to do. Like I said, every single guy is different. You interviewed Abdul Gaddy?
Absolutely.
Okay, so Abdul Gaddy's a really unique case. Grew up as elite as you could be. He was number 2 point guard in the country, behind only John Wall. He was a McDonald's All-American. He was a USA kid. Everyone in the country still to this day knows Abdul Gaddy in the basketball community. But it didn't happen for him. The NBA didn't happen for him. And there's something that happens when that happens. There's something internally that you feel like you've somehow failed. Abdul Gaddy is a wonderful player. He lives a wonderful life from this game. Right. So in the grand scheme of things, there's nothing about that young man that's a failure. Right. But you somehow have to have these conversations and help him see himself the way that he actually is. He's done a great job recently, really kind of putting himself in the right headspace and just not looking backwards and just staying in the moment, looking forward. That's been kind of his struggle. But that's a conversation we've had. You know, maybe I'm oversharing, but this is a real thing. And I appreciate your question.
Yeah.
This is a very real thing. And many guys deal with this. Robert Upshaw, the same.
Yeah.
Tony Wroten. Not the same scenario, but the same thing, right? Mm-hmm. He actually just had 20 points, 5 assists in a VTB League game today against a EuroLeague team.
Been loving reading his stats. So proud of him, man.
Yeah, it's really – I could tell you, man, he reached out to me not too long ago, and some of the things we share – I've known Tony a long time. We spent a lot of time together when he was in high school. And he's in so much better of a place today. He's happy. And it makes me emotional just seeing him in this place. It's the coolest thing. It's not, there's no millions of dollars involved. There's no huge big lights and no, he's happy. That's what this is about. Mm-hmm. So for me, that's a huge win, watching that young man grow in every way and find happiness. That's what this is about. That's why I'm here. That's what that's why this matters to me, right?
It's life. Yeah. And I think that's when you said, you know, basketball was like your father growing up. It's because basketball isn't just the game. It is so much more than that. And that story right there is a perfect example. Tony Wroten, if people who don't know him, that's insane. Where have you been? Right. But the talent that he has is amazing. You see it every year at the CrawsOver.
Yep.
And, I don't know him, but I was able to interview him, and just seeing him as a person and the way he interacted with people throughout the year or throughout the summer at the CrawsOver got better every week. Got better every week.
Yes.
You know, and that turned to on the court success and playing with his teammates more. And sure, he's talented and he can score every time, but you saw him, all right, I'm going to get these people involved. I'm a crazy good playmaker too. Right. So it was impressive to see that.
He broke a record this year. He had 22 assists in a game this year. Like, he's so gifted and still so gifted. There's a lot still in front of him for him to do. And I'm excited to be a part of it. And I'm just happy for him. So,
Good. And just another thing, as we're in this conversation, you've talked a lot about, you know, it's not failure. These guys are incredibly talented. And that's what I was kind of interested this summer in, is these guys are so good at their jobs. And in normal life, if somebody was that good at their job, that dedicated at their job, they're not failing. Or they're not facing failure as much as these guys do, whether it's making the NBA or winning a game or losing a game. So it's just interesting to think about that skill of dealing with failure.
And that's also why it meant so much to me to make sure that we won the CrawsOver, not for the sake of winning the CrawsOver. There's bigger games and events and things to do, right? But we won it with all these guys that people somehow can point to and say, oh, he didn't make it, oh, he failed. Against all these guys that they say did make it and didn't fail and won, and right? I wanted to make sure that people could see clearly that, no, these guys are winning in every way, right? They're seeing the world. They're forced into situations where they have to develop a high degree of emotional intelligence, right? And all, they're just being more rounded. They're forced into becoming more rounded young men and having a greater world view. And so for me, that's a huge win. Yeah. That doesn't happen when everything is catered and everybody's yes to you, and right. So it doesn't have to be that way, right? Yeah.
That championship game is something I will always remember. It's, for me, I've watched the CrawsOver as a fan far longer than I've been a part of it.
Okay.
And that's the best CrawsOver game I've ever seen. As far as the way the game was being played it was like watching the Spurs almost. There was the incredible ball movement, passing up a good shot for a great shot. The attention on defense, the attention to detail on defense was awesome. Obviously, they're playing Team Adidas, which, for the people who don't know, that's Jamal Crawford's team. Right. So you talked about how it meant a lot for you. What do you remember about that game? Was it the highest level game you've been a part of, you've seen at the CrawsOver? that?
Yeah, I can't off the top of my head remember a game that was. I can tell you this: we were. I don't watch the scoreboard, but there was maybe a timeout in the third quarter where I looked up and we were up 30-something odd points. I said, "Oh man, I don't want to do this in the championship. Let me get these high school guys in here." So I actually let the young guys play, the high school kids play a bunch in that game. But it was, for me, it was. Jamal came with all these reinforcements,
and he tried for more.
Yeah,
it didn't come.
Right. So, and that's fine. I have no issue with that. It's just, to me, it's just we were missing guys. Big Robert Upshaw wasn't there.
Gone, yeah.
Ahmad wasn't there. We're missing quite a few guys. But it's not about the individual guys. That's what matters to me. It's about the brand of basketball you play. It's the quality of the brand of basketball you play. And every single day, we hammer down the details, do this thing the right way, and that's what they're into, and that's what you saw, right?
What other team has done that in the crossover? Not to disrespect any of those teams, but when you think of anyone who's built a brand, I think from what we watched last year, Worldwide SM has that. So
that's great to hear.
It's great to see as a fan. It meant a lot to Jamal, and I think that. You could tell because he was taking it to the basket a lot, which you don't really see a whole lot in the crossover. So did you know how much it meant to him, and did you hesitate at all for going for the throat and, just saying, I'm taking this is my victory?
No. Jamal is one of my best friends. It has been for a long time. We played earlier in the season, and it got really personal. And so I wasn't going to let this game get like that at all. But what I actually did was, and I'm oversharing again, I wanted Jamal to score a bunch of points. But the only way Jamal actually could even put his team in a position to beat us is not by him scoring a bunch of points. It's by him making a bunch of plays for the group. Usually he has 40 points and 20 assists. Like, he has a bunch of assists. We wanted to eliminate the assists. So I said, no, we're going to go under on his ball screens, make him be a scorer all night, right? It just kind of messed with his head. Like, oh, I'm open? Yes, you're open all night, Jamal. Go for it. Go for it, champ.
Yeah. That is some insight, man.
Yeah.
Oh, that is good. And it's funny to see the way, like you say, he has a lot of assists in the crossover, and he wants to show off his team and make plays for his team. And I think we've seen that in the NBA this year a little bit from him, and it's situational, and it's what the situation calls for. But a lot of people didn't know he had that in his repertoire. And I'm sure it's not a surprise to you.
No, I've known him since he moved back up here. We actually had gym class together at Franklin before he transferred to Rainier Beach. That's when we used to have little battles in gym class and at Rainier Community Center. But yeah, so I've known about his passing for a long time. He just in the NBA, his job has been to score the ball, be the microwave kind of guy, just come in and get buckets. But I know he'll beat you with passing. Right? He will beat you with passing. He's
got some vision. He's got the ability to do it.
Yes.
And that's what a lot of people don't pick up on, and it's frustrating watching or listening to the national media or fans or whatever that don't see that.
Yep.
And he's trying for something bigger that, it's more than what he's doing. The other part of it has to kind of connect to.
Sure.
And I think he's teaching a lot, and we've seen that throughout the season. I think watching him play with DeAndre Ayton has been awesome because he was one of the first guys who was making it to point to get that guy the ball.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not that hard. You got to get that guy the ball.
He just I saw a comment that he posted on Twitter, Jamal, about DeAndre Ayton, saying just telling people to stay tuned. He's gonna be one of the faces of the NBA, and before you know it. So
it's been quiet, but it's brewing.
Yep.
One thing I want to talk about, we talked about Robert Upshaw a little bit. You mentioned kind of retiring. I don't know if we said it was early. He definitely thought it was. You retired at age 31, is that right?
31 or 32,
31, 32.
Right in there.
So Robert Upshaw, I reached out to him and was like, what coming from you, what do you want to know? And he asked what made you retire so early.
I actually tore my Achilles, fully ruptured, about a couple days before Kobe Bryant did his.
Oh, no.
And so it was kind of weird. I kind of just watched his development and said, am I on par or am I not? Right? And obviously I didn't have all the bells and whistles he had. Right. But I did train just to come back and play in the Pro-Am. And I averaged a little over 30 after tearing my Achilles and won the championship. So yeah, so it was pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah. But that was, for me, it was just about, in my mind, I wanted to show myself that this didn't beat me. So I just did that, and once I did that, I felt good with retiring, you know.
You were okay.
Yeah.
Did you know you had an interest in going into being an agent?
To be honest, my partner, and this is me revealing, again, maybe oversharing, but revealing something that I haven't revealed to anyone publicly. Very few people know what I'm about to say. I didn't know that this is what I was going to do. My partner, who was my agent my entire career, for about the last 5 years of my career, was on me constantly about, when you're done, I would love to have you here. But I took a really hard look at a bunch of things. One of them being college coaching. I had a few opportunities that I could have taken. My former head coach, Ray Giacoletti, sat me down while he was at Gonzaga at the time. He was an assistant at Gonzaga. He told me, Alvin, I'm going to take this head coaching job thing. I'm going to give it one more shot. I'll probably have a job next year, and I want you to come with me. And I couldn't bring myself to doing it. I even had an opportunity at Washington State when Ernie Kent was hired. I just couldn't bring myself to do it. I'm the kind of guy who prefers to be responsible for my own successes and failures. And so I kind of just said, you know what? I have an entrepreneurial spirit, and I'm going to just dive into that, right? And right now, actually, I'm in the process of buying my partner out and owning worldwide by myself, and running this thing all by myself here. So
wow,
yeah,
that's awesome. That's
cool.
Big news.
Yeah, I haven't said that to anyone.
Wow. Now
this is an exclusive.
Jeremy Mills podcast. Let's go. So in between that time of deciding what you were going to do, I read there was a possibility that you considered firefighting.
Sure.
Is that true?
I looked at just about anything and everything, man. I romanticized about the idea of me staying in great shape and seeing myself in the in the calendars.
You just wanted to be a model.
No, but I looked at a bunch of things, man, and really, what it all came down to was I had developed all these amazing relationships all over the world, and it just didn't make any sense to me to just kind of just squander those and not take advantage of them, right? So I said, no, I'll stay in my lane and do what I know I could be great at, and not just what I could be great at, what I'm passionate about. And it gives me a great opportunity to help young men live their dreams, right? And so that's something every day I wake up and I'm excited about. It's hard for me to even stay asleep, because I know that I have something I can do to help somebody else be great, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And that's something, obviously, if people have kept up with this podcast, has been a theme of the Seattle basketball culture is so strong with that. Mm-hmm. Where do you think that comes from? Is it, somebody that mentored you that gave you that spirit, or?
Sure. To be honest, Jamal talks about it a lot, but it started with Doug Christie. At least for me. He had a gym out in Federal Way, and I was always the youngest guy there. Jamal would be probably the second youngest guy there, and then it would be a bunch of pros. It would be Tony. It would be like a Brent Merritt. It'd be like who coaches at Eastside Catholic now. It would be Tony Harris, rest in peace. It would be just a bunch of just grown men, pros, some guys overseas, some guys in the NBA, and it would just be Doug Christie's agent. His name was J.R. Harris. He ran it. No women were allowed in the gym. No referees. He would call all the fouls. JR would. It'd be about 2 foul calls the whole day, right? So it's just really serious, really grown man, like great culture, about hard work. And so the fact that Doug Christie would show up, he'll work out. He'll show up early. Sometimes he would ask me to come and I'll work out with him even. And he would have strength shoes. So we used to have these jump soles back then. Mm-hmm. He would have those on, strength shoes. He would have a weight vest on, and he'd be doing all the same stuff that I was doing, but way faster than I could without any of that stuff on, right? So, but seeing that, and seeing him help, like he allowed me to come work out with him. That's crazy, right?
Right.
So seeing that, it just kind of him just grabbing you made you feel special, made you feel like I can do this. It empowered you, right?
Right.
And so I try to do the same. Jamal's did the same when he made it. He always had me, Will, all of us. He grabbed us and, no, you're not going to fail. You're going to win. Mm-hmm. And so I try to do the same for anybody that I'm involved with. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Looking at, we talked about some of your clients with Worldwide SM. One guy I think we should spend a little bit more time on is Robert Upshaw, because I think the summer he had led into a great season overseas. Can you just talk about what you've been most proud of for him?
Again, you're pulling me in the trenches. I'm going to have to say some things, but it's the truth, man. So, Robert, I get one story I can share with you is we know Robert has a troubled past with substance abuse, and it's the truth. So we know, we all are aware. But this year, his team has done some random testing on Robert, and one of the things that happened this year with Robert is they had him take a test, and he was terrified, not because he had been doing anything wrong, but because he had never passed the test before. So for him, although he knew he hadn't done anything, he was nervous. He would call me and say, "Snow, I don't," like he was really nervous, right?
Wow.
But he passed, and for him, it's not just the playing. Obviously, on the floor, he's done an amazing job. He's playing at a really high level. It's called Euro Cup, which is basically the second highest level in Europe. We were on the cusp, but the deal fell through of him being bought out and put on a EuroLeague team. Oh, wow. So he has that level of interest going into this next season based on what he's been able to do this year. So he's on track again, on his way to doing really special things. He's already doing special things, but he's focused. He's excited about doing things the right way now. And it's really cool to, some of the things we've been through. I don't know how much he shared with you, but when Robert signed with me, I've never said this to anyone. When Robert signed with me, Robert was couch hopping in Las Vegas, basically homeless. And he came up here, he moved in with me, didn't have a car, didn't have anything, didn't have money, nothing. I fed him every day, took him to the gym every day. We worked out every single day. And we just built. And now you see what he's doing. He's doing amazing things, and he's on his way. So it's just, I'm not saying this, I'm not looking for anything. He doesn't owe me anything. I'm not looking for any credit or nothing. It just feels good to be able to be a part of these successes, right?
Right.
That's it.
And it's a lot of work too. Like it's one thing for you to say it, but for you to live it and to actually bring somebody in your house who, it's not all rosy if they are, couch hopping, and to deal with the bad and to know that there's some good in there. Is that something you just believe in people, or is it something you see in the person to be able to go through that, or is it just?
Okay, so your macro question, I'd say we're still here, right? That we didn't somehow blow up this whole world. And so generally, I think that we are a good people, right? But your micro question, I would say, I know Robert didn't want to fail. I know Robert didn't want to be viewed as a failure. And so I actually, when he called me the first time and made all these promises to me, I recorded him. So in the event ever that he did anything against the things that we had agreed to, I could roll the tape, show him exactly what it is, and we could handle things accordingly, right? Or whatever needs to happen from that point. But we made an agreement. And there were times where Rob walked right up to the line, and we had a really serious conversation. And I looked him dead in his eyes, and he knew I was serious, and he knew he wanted this for himself. So he didn't shy away from it. He accepted his part in whatever it was, and we moved forward. And now he's here. So pretty cool.
Good. Yeah, I'm excited to see him again if he's coming back for the crossover. It was a pleasure to see him play. Great anchor for your defense, obviously. Sure. Great offensive player.
Sure.
But as a person, it's good to hear he's doing well. Somebody I know less about, Jacob Wiley, only because I'm crossover through and through. That's how I got in here. So no disrespect to him. I've heard a lot of great things, but for the people like me who don't know much about him, enlighten us.
Jacob, man, Jacob is a special young man, really. He's special. And people say these kinds of words all the time, but anybody you talk to is going to tell you the same thing. It's a really unique story, and I can't do it any justice in the time we have, but just to give you a little history, as a high school student, he walked in the house, found his dad dead, and managed to not let that deter him from everything he ever wanted. He had no offers really outside of Montana and then in NAI school. He ended up going to Montana. Didn't work out during his freshman year. Didn't really like it. So he left the school. He left the team. He's such a freak athlete, though, that he played football and track while at Montana. Division I. Right? It's crazy.
He's got to make sure that's not high school. That sounds like high school. No, right. That's Division I college.
Yeah. So, but after that year was done, he left Montana, went to the NAIA school that recruited him, that offered him, right? Became a 2-time All-American, did great things there, then left, decided to gamble on himself, transferred to Eastern Washington, right? My alma mater.
That's right.
And in that 1 year, first of all, he didn't have a scholarship. He walked on. He ended up earning a scholarship. But not only did he earn a scholarship, he became the player of the year in the conference, an All-American. Just went on to do great things. And then he also, after that, signed in the NBA, played a couple games in the league with Brooklyn. And now he's playing in EuroLeague in Spain. He's doing great things. He played in Adelaide in Australia earlier this year. Had a really great season. They offered him to come back. He accepted, but now he's finishing the year in EuroLeague in Spain playing. My man went from Adelaide in Australia to now living in the Canary Islands in Spain. I don't think life's too bad on that guy.
Not a bad life for that guy. Wow.
So, yeah, things are going really well for him. What's cool about him, though, aside from the basketball stuff, just being around him and having other guys around, like we were talking about Rob Upshaw. And Rob, we were talking one day, and Rob just started talking to me about how Jake has impacted him. One of the coolest things that we have here is a really healthy, really great culture where everybody's in the gym with each other every single day. and they're helping each other figure things out. They're giving each other little pointers and tips, but they're also in each other's lives in a real way. And if you watch Instagram or Twitter and the engagement we have amongst the worldwide, not to be corny, but it's just real family. It's genuine. These guys support each other. It's not just on social media that they support each other. I had a guy who got hurt yesterday, and I reached out to a few of the guys, let them know, and they all called him. They all make sure everybody else is doing well. Sometimes Devontae Lacey was not playing well earlier this year, and a bunch of the guys just blew his phone up, making sure he was in the right headspace, and he got it together, and now he's playing great. It's that stuff. Robert was telling me a story in that same vein about just being around Jake and how it impacts, it kind of makes him check himself, right? Like he sees a guy who's at a higher level than him currently. And Rob, everybody knows Rob could be at, there's not a level Rob can't play on. It's not about his ability. Right. That's not in question. But he sees how Jake conducts himself, right? He sees how he takes his body serious. He sees how he eats. He sees how he spends the time in the weight room. He sees how he actually sleeps. He sees everything about him. He takes care of himself. He treats himself like a professional at all times, right? And Robert gets a chance to see that. And he spoke to me about how, when I watch Jake, man, I realized I got to fix this. I'm doing better with that, but I got to fix that. You know what I mean? And so it's just really kind of cool, the influence that all of these guys are having on each other, right? And the way that they're helping each other level up.
It's a holistic family view, and it's more than just basketball.
Sure.
And I think that's pretty obvious.
Sure.
Yeah, is that what you're most proud of? Is just this family?
No question.
This family that you've built, and it's something coming into this interview, it's my gut feeling that that's what it was, and that's the kind of person you were. And the more I've learned about it, it's just confirmed that. Yeah. So it's just very impressive to see. It makes sense that it's in the Seattle basketball culture, right? But I think it's something on its own too.
Indeed.
So just very proud of you taking the time even to share it. The inside knowledge was amazing. I think there are some great stories that people will take out of it. Yeah. To finish on a couple other guys, Andrew Andrews and Brandon Brown, some of the other guys in your agency. Yeah. Take a minute to talk about them and their story.
So Andrew, I recruited him out of college. A really funny thing about some of these guys is a lot of times, so many guys are in these guys' ear, and you don't always know what's real, and you tend to think you may be bigger than this or that, and, you know, guys, you just get really tugged and pulled in a bunch of ways. So Andrew, at the time, thought that this wasn't right for him for whatever reason. But he's since... he's gone through his career, and some things have happened with other agents, and he's realized, like, at the end of the day, I just need someone who's going to be honest with me, tell me the truth, and give it to me real. Because that's what's healthiest. That's what's going to help me get to everywhere I want to be. And I had a conversation with him recently where we were just talking, and he said, and again, this stuff makes me emotional at times, man, because he said, signing with you was the best decision I've made in my entire adult life. To me, that's not about basketball, right? That's like a real thing. That's real. Right. And so for me, I don't know. It just feels really good to see the impact you can have on a guy. Once a guy kind of matures and gets to a place where he realizes what's actually important in this thing. So it's really kind of cool what's going on with Andrew. He's now playing in Israel. He just had 40 the other day. He's doing well, man. He had a back surgery last year, so he was not sure about how his return would be, and but it got him in a great situation, and he's playing really, really well. You mentioned Brandon Brown. Brandon Brown was the first guy to sign with me. We used to work out together toward the tail end of my career, and he I love this dude, man. He's had 2 back surgeries, but just wouldn't quit. And he's having literally the best season of his career right now, all after his 2nd surgery. Guys don't come back from these things. Took Larry Bird out.
Right.
One of the greats. Like, this is not a thing, but he's managed to do it. He's such a just a great story. He's just a great dude. He the day that I said I was going to do this agent thing, he signed with me that day. I don't care what else is going on. I'm going with you.
Wow. So
to have that kind of trust and have that kind of relationship, it's invaluable, right? Yeah.
And as I hear you talk, it's if these guys, Andrew or Brandon, if they wanted to sign with an agent who maybe was more established, I guess, who had more years of experience on you, had more, if you want to say NBA connections, whatever the strength that they may have over you is the holistic approach. Is that, do you think, why they go with you, is what you bring to them?
Yeah, I think
as a whole person.
If you were to ask Brandon or Gaddy, Gaddy said to me, and Robert as well. You think Robert doesn't get approached by several agents? You think Jake doesn't? All these guys get approached by agents, right? Robert loves sending me the messages that they send him with these like laughing emojis. Like, look at these clowns. Like the guys, the relationships that we've built. The guys tell me all the time, I don't care what these agents say or do or offer me. There's no way I'm leaving. And I don't care what's going on. I'm not leaving. Period. So to have that kind of like real support, and it's different. Especially in a business like this. It's unique. It's special. It speaks to what we have here. It's real.
Right. And you've alluded to it a little bit, but as we sit here today, the middle of March, what are you thinking about for the rest of the year? What's your next goal? What's next for Alvin Snow? I mentioned that I plan on owning this company outright myself and kind of just taking this thing to another level. That's to come. And then also, I'm looking at helping each and every one of these guys just level up. That's the next phase for each of these guys. Just keep giving them the tools that they need to continue to level up. That's my mission. And then also, anyone that has the mindset, like a growth mindset, I'm open to helping. I'm not looking for anything. If you have a growth mindset and you don't have a fixed mindset where you think you got all the answers, or you think you know it all, or you think whatever it is, then we can help each other, right? But if that's kind of really where I'm at, Yeah. And if you had to give a piece of advice, maybe doesn't even have to be a player, but just as a person, what's a piece of advice you think would be helpful for people to hear, just in general?
I'd say figure out what your passion is, right? I'd say attack it with everything you have, and be willing to live with the results. That's it.
It's perfect. And I can't let you go because that's a great quote right there. But there's a couple quotes that I've written down that I've just really enjoyed. One, it's a blessing to be a blessing.
Yeah, that's something it's one of my mantras I say all the time to the guys. Like, not to the guys, but just I'm reminding myself actually when I'm saying this, and then I'm sharing that like what I think is wisdom with the young men that I'm involved with, right? So like, it is a huge blessing to be in position to be a blessing, right? That's one. But then also, just to be able to bless somebody, I can't explain to you what that feels like, right? It's greater than money. It's greater than any of this stuff that we all seek and try to attain. That's what this is all about to me, at least. So,
yeah. And it shows. The last quote. I tell them that there are no life rafts. That no one's going to save you. You have to do it yourself.
Yeah.
What do you mean by
my
that?
Guys, I have a bunch of like quotes that my guys love to tease me about, but that's one of them, right? So What I mean is, it's really hard. It's really sink or swim. You're in a professional sport that's highly competitive, and it's not any different than anything else in life, right? It's a microcosm of life, right? But you have to approach it like almost like it's life and death, because it's pretty much that serious. Mm-hmm. It's that competitive. You will either sink or swim, and nobody's gonna save you. Nobody. I can't go play the game for you. Mm-hmm. Your mom can't do it. Your dad can't do it. You have to go out there and do it, right? So that's kind of what that means to me.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It's Alvin Snow Jr.
Yep.
Appreciate you coming on the podcast and showing me love. It's been a great conversation.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you.
I appreciate your insight, and I got to get you back on. I know there's more that we could go for a long time, but
right.
I appreciate it again.
No, thank you, man. Really.
Thank you. Appreciate it.